Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Radio Free Professional Wrestling. We are a mere 3 days away from Christmas, and we are double checking our list, seeing who's stunning and see who is not so nice. But luckily for me, I have Santa Claus himself, jolly old David the Smart Mark, with me. David, how you doing?
Ho, 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 Sterling Shawn. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. It just seems a short period of time since I've seen you for Radio Free Professional Wrestling, Wide World of Sports, etc. And you're looking just as good as you did when we did that show.
You know, miracle of time travel sometimes. Miracle of time travel.
Yeah, it is that special time of the year where miracles happen, don't it?
Well, David, I want to do the show just a little bit different than what we normally do with Radio Free Professional Wrestling. Normally, I would do a studying 6 questions for news of the week. This is our year-end review show. We are going to have a slight bit of news with me and Bob Kapur from SlamWrestling.net here in about 15 or 20 minutes as we talk about the release of Mandy Rose from WWE. David, what are your thoughts about the release of Mandy Rose?
I think it's I was gobsmacked. It's not often I'm gobsmacked at WWE sacking, but this one I was like, really? And then obviously you find out the reasons, or you think you find out the reasons. Obviously, dirt sheet stuff. But yeah, I think she's been poorly treated. I do not think, under the circumstances, she will struggle to find another company.
David, I don't feel like she's going to have any trouble finding work in 2023. If I was a certain Tony, I would be sitting there looking at the clock, just counting down the days, and go like, I'm going to have her on the first possible AEW Dynamite I can get. And Mandy, here's a mic. Go there to say whatever you want to say.
Do you know what? Yeah, that's actually, more than anything, that last point is the best one. Yeah, because Tony's got the MO. We're expecting Sasha Banks or whatever her other ring name is going to be any time soon on AEW television. I think it's going to be pretty much, the AEW ladies division is pretty much going to be soon a former WWE ladies division.
Well, I feel like Mandy Rose and AEW could actually help this division because it'll give them another solid performer, especially on the heel side. I mean, Saraya is still working back into ring shape since she's only had one match in the last 5 years because of her injury. So hopefully she'll get back in ring shape and have a good 2023. I can't wait to see what is in store for Saraya. But having Mandy Rose coming off of that run she had in NXT and being able to go straight over in 30 to 60 days to AEW or Impact, sign me up because I feel like she's going to kick some ass in 2023.
I'm going to say I'll be intrigued. I'd certainly start out invested in to see what whoever does with her. Because, as you say, the point, I'd like to see her first promo to see if she does get to the bare bones. Because she's got every right, pissed off with the WWE.
Exactly. Her release came literally 12 to 24 hours after we found out the Wall Street News Journal that, oh, hey, by the way, more Vince McMahon controversy is on our way.
Yeah, yeah. They've not done much of this lately, the WWE. The decision-making seems to have been founded and the programming improved. We've talked about this at length, but this is quite dumbfounding. Obviously, some of her outside extracurricular work has upset someone within the company or within the network. You don't know, but it's happened and she's gone.
Exactly. We wish Mandy Rose the best in 2023 and stay tuned to me and Bob discussing this more in detail on our center stage interview segment coming up later on in the show. Right now, David, let's slide over to our Stunning 6 Questions, our year-end edition.
It's time for the Stunning 6 Question. All the whys and what have they done now? Hopefully, David and Shawn can make sense of it.
And David, my first stunning question to you, was CM Punk worth all the money and trouble going to AEW for about 18 months?
For AEW, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. It'd be worth it I don't think he'll go anywhere now. We battered this to death almost like a fish. It was because for the first part of this year, AEW was must-watch TV because you had some bona fide superstars on that show. And the way that they do AEW television, it made for must-watch TV. It really, really did. The Punk MJF feud is one of the best of the year. You know, you can't argue with it. The promos, the promo wars, although obviously, you know, it picked up, you know, it brought the best out of Ricky Starks recently. But yeah, I think he was worth every penny. And it's just unfortunately, you know, the reasons he's not there, we've gone over, we've made our opinions. Certainly both myself and Jake feel strongly, you know, about the way Punk's been treated, and I still do.
David, I feel like it was a great investment for AEW to bring CM Punk into the company. And for that first 9 months or so to almost 12 months, it was working just fine. And we were having all these really cool CM Punk moments as he was basically doing a tour around the country. And it was some of the best CM Punk we've seen in a while. And he looked like he was happy to be there. And we get to All Out and everything just fell apart.
Well, obviously, it started with that Hangman going off script promo. He's very Phil Brooks is very sensitive about the scenario with Colt Cabana, obviously. So it just spiraled really from there, and almost is backstage. You know, the Bucks are two kids in men's bodies. You know, they've got their little clique of. It's almost like the old clique of the WWE, of the actual original clique. You know, God forbid anyone who remotely crosses them. They've got the bosses here in the way people like Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash had Vince's ear. They've got Tony's ear. And once Punk went, whilst that press conference is going to go down as legendary, Punk doesn't give a crap what he says. If he's got something to say, he'll say it. And maybe he shouldn't. I don't know. Because if he hadn't have done, we'd have probably still been watching him, which is a shame for people like me and you. But Punk's Punk. He'll say what he thinks. He'll tell you how it is. And obviously, it's gone on to be what it is. Do I think he's going to wrestle again? I really, really can't see it. I really, really can't see it. I think this will have finished him off for good.
David, I think you're right. I feel like Punk is going to settle with AEW. And you know what? He's at a certain age where he doesn't really need to be in the ring at all. He can do his announcing for MMA and do other projects that'll keep him happy. But I doubt we'll ever see him back in a national company doing professional wrestling.
Well, at the moment, he's being paid a fortune by AEW to sit at home and do other things. He's never going to be short of work. He's always going to have offers on the table. It's a no-brainer. And he's injured, obviously, at the moment, anyway, genuinely from the All-Out match. So it's a no-brainer. I don't blame him. I really, really don't blame him. I'm a huge Phil Brooks advocate and always will be.
Well, David, our second sending question as we look back on the year of wrestling in 2022, what are your thoughts about 11 months after Cody Rhodes debuted? Well, take it back. He left AEW about 11 months ago, and he debuted at WrestleMania. So what have you felt about Cody Rhodes' return to the WWE?
Well, it's been a bit of a damp squib, quite simply because of injury. He was well received, which was great to see. It's almost like his stock had raised from his first time round run in WWE, because people had seen the AEW thing. They'd seen him being presented in AEW as a big star. And then all of a sudden, he's coming back. He means business. And he was received as a big star. Fair play to him for that. I think he's a very clever individual. But unfortunately, it's rather been a damp squib purely and simply because of injury, because of the quality of the matches. I think the Seth Rollins feud went on a little bit too long. They could have curtailed that. But if the rumor is correct, and he's coming back for one of the nights, probably night one, to battle Roman, that would be a great comeback. Great comeback for him.
David, when I see this return of Cody to the WWE, it kind of reminds me of LeBron James going to Miami Heat for a while, like a couple of seasons. Then he goes back to Cleveland. I feel like Cody coming back to the WWE is kind of like LeBron going back to Cleveland. Now we see a much older and more polished Cody Rhodes. And I feel like the WWE sees value in him where they didn't see it when he was there the first time. And I feel like 2023, if he can stay healthy, we can see WWE Universal Champion Cody Rhodes.
I'd agree with that because he's a legitimate individual that could carry the belt. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, David, let's go with another return as we going to talk about now. We have seen one match that Soraya's returned to Wrestling. She's been with AEW for about 4 months now. How do you feel about Saraya coming back to professional wrestling after 5 years?
I was really, really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. You know my association with them, obviously WAW, which is her father's company. The night story is, it's been told and been told and been told and been told. I'm really looking forward to it. And it has turned out to be an utter disaster. There's no other word for it. If you don't agree with that, then you don't know much about the woman and what she was capable of. Her promos have been really poor, almost self-admitting mistakes in them, which is fine once, but at the time she had Regal to turn to when he was at the company when she came back. If I'd have been her, I'd have been working every day with that man. And her in-ring, for obvious reasons with regards to neck and stuff, has been hugely, hugely disappointing. She's very rusty and she needs to maybe take a sabbatical and come back strong.
David, I was so excited to see her back in the company, and you know how much I love Paige. And I was like, so excited for this match between her and Britt Baker. I thought it was going to be probably on my list of matches of the year. And we get to that match, and the first spot took me out of the match as they hit that DDT on the apron there. I'm going like, she had a neck injury. Why are we starting with this spot? But I'm hoping 2023 turns around. I feel like AEW made a mistake in how they presented her the first time around. I feel like, you could debut her at Arthur Ashe and let her cut a heartfelt welcome back promo. Then we don't have to see her for a few weeks. And eventually we get to a match. But in the meantime, in between times, she could have had a lot of dart matches somewhere just getting back in ring shape.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, don't get me wrong with what I've just said. I really want her to succeed. Really, really want her to succeed.
Okay, David, we've been talking about returns. There's a return that is coming up. Now, we won't see Lord Steven Regal in WWE on TV for about a year, but he's heading back to the company. Well, how do you describe his time in AEW?
Missed opportunity. Simple as that. Missed opportunity for AEW. Now, Regal's very clever in the way he will speak about his time. He won't be negative because that's the nature of the beast. But if it's being rumoured and that people don't want to take Regal's advice on wrestling, on presentation, on promos, excuse the phrase, on facials, on reactions, on selling, all the cliches, all the carny words, whatever you want to call it, then they're absolutely mindless. The guy has shown in patches that he's still got it as a character, be it on screen. Off screen, he had much with ability, ranging from the world of sports style. Bearing in mind, he always has said, I was never athletic, I just made the best of my body. And he's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen, technically. They've missed the boat hugely with him, but I shall always remember his interaction, his opening lines, which are pure, if you're British, you'll know what I mean, pure carry-on films. His opening lines with Excalibur every single episode of Dynamite that he joined the commentary team. The short promo battle with MJF was brilliant, but they've missed the boat with him, Shawn, badly.
David, I was on the show a couple of times to talk about how I was looking forward to seeing MJF and Regal work like Nick Bockwinkel and Bobby the Brain Heenan, and I got myself so excited for it. Then he leaves the company, and he's going back to the WWE. Now, granted, it's a coup for the WWE to get him back, and it was smart of Regal to have this opt-out option he had. And the fact that Charlie Dempsey, his son, is in NXT right now, I can see him want to go back to a place where, oh, hey, these people are going to soak up all that knowledge because they're going to listen to the freaking guy.
And boy, does the apple not fall far from the tree, Shawn. Charlie Dempsey is a machine. I hope someone, maybe Regal being back there might help it, gives him a push, because that lad is fantastic. All right, he looks like his dad with curly hair, and he wrestles like his dad. Boy, does he wrestle like his dad. But he is absolutely fantastic. So I'm glad for Regal that he's got to do that, because he deserves to.
Exactly. We're looking at Regal in the last couple years of his time in professional wrestling. So I would rather see him with Charlie Dempsey, his son, in NXT. Even though AEW is going to learn to regret this, they had an opportunity to learn from a master of the craft but we don't want to listen to them because we know what we're doing because we've been on the scene for a while.
Yeah. Every day's a school day, mate. Every day's a school day.
Okay, so let's talk about this. One of my biggest disappointments in 2022, and it may come out on our Western Awards, is how the NWA has coming down around Billy Corgan as Nick Aldis is no longer with the NWA. David, I started 2022 and joined the NWA. There's an NWA show coming back to Knoxville January 30th. It's going to be the first live NWA power ever, and I'm thinking about not going.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you know and you've listened to this podcast for a long while, you know that Shawn particularly has been a huge advocate of the NWA, whereas I'm just a wrestling traditionalist, so the NWA means the world to me from 20, 30, 40 years ago. For you to say that, Shawn, that's bad, particularly as it's only just spitting distance from where you live. Yeah, Billy Corgan seems to have lost the plot badly. I've got no issue like some people have with Trevor Murdoch being the world champion. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. But to lose Nick Aldis is a major mistake. And, I don't know why, we don't know whether it's money. Nick has hinted at the way he's been treated, the way it's been booked, the way it's been dealt with. I really wouldn't like to hazard a guess. But just watching him say on that 1PW show and recently now getting indie bookings, he looks a lot happier.
Yeah, I feel like Nick Aldis is going to have a 2023 where you won't see him with a certain company. He's going to go tour the world and just make some cash as he wrestles wherever he wants to. And I feel like the NWA is going to limp along here for a while, and I don't know exactly what the future of the NWA is going to be in 2023. Okay, I'm going to be one of the people. I have not that much trouble with Towers being a heel champion in the NWA. That's fine. But the fact that you're not willing to keep Nick Aldis in the company and try to keep him near the top of the company is insane to me.
Yeah. There's something gone wrong there, which we obviously are not privy to. Yeah, I mean, I'd almost liken it on a lower end to when Drew McIntyre first got fired, or Drew Galloway, whatever you want, first got fired by the WWE, and everyone was gobsmacked that he'd been let go. And he turned around and he said, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a positive and go out and be happy and be the best wrestler on the indies. And he immediately turned back up in ICW, but started wrestling all over the world in indies. He had a little spell with TNA, and he did. He did it, and I can see Aldis doing exactly the same because Aldis is quality. He carries himself. He looks the part. He dresses the part. He can talk, particularly for an Englishman over in North America as well, because it's a perennial issue. He's just the whole package. And someone, if they're not, unless they're stupid, it'd be a hell of a pickup for AEW. What a pickup for AEW would he be?
David, I say that would be a good choice, and I feel like I was talking to Bobby, you found out later on in the show here, AEW is so stacked with talent. He might be hot for a while, then next thing you know, he might be on Dark Elevation, and you go where's Nick Aldis? Well,
let's face it, AEW could do with some star power, and you could put Aldis right up there, particularly as Moxley's going. And I'm not a fan of Moxley, but I'm being realistic here. Moxley is going particularly stale, and his style is getting boring. Obviously, they're going to now move Danielson on to MJF. He's the other big star. And Jericho, for some reason, has decided to book himself in a losing streak to a jobber who he fell in love with 3 months ago at an indie show. So God knows where that's going to go. But, yeah, adding Nick Aldis to the upper echelon of AEW is only a good thing.
Okay, David, sixth and final stunning question of the year is not a look behind, it's a look ahead. What is your boldest prediction in professional wrestling in 2023?
Wow, you've sprung that on me. I tell you what, I'll give you heart and head. Heart says that Will Ospreay finally gets his dues as the best professional pound-for-pound wrestler in the world. I really want to see that. I want to see him with the New Japan World Heavyweight Championship. I want to see him come over back into North America again and actually prove that he is what people like myself and yourself know he really is. That's my heart. My head, I want to see a better NXT. which is the chance of it now. I want to see NXT become the NXT it was when it started, where it was must-see television, rather than, no, that's the show I can avoid. Although I'm a wrestling broadcaster, although I'm a historian, NXT is the one I can miss out this week, which is what it's become. But my biggest prediction is Spike Trivet will go on to become, hopefully, the star that he should be.
Okay, let's look at this. So, first of all, I agree with you. I feel like NXT with a rival Rigo back and being behind the scenes, I feel like that's where Triple H is going to have him. I got a good feeling about NXT in 2023. And yes, I want to see Spike Trivet just have the biggest heel run in Progress Wrestling this coming up year, because his 2022 has been nothing short of been awesome. And he may show up on the Winston Award somewhere. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance he's turning up on mine.
Okay, David, so my big prediction for 2023 is we are going to see the launch of WWE NXT Europe, and it's going to be a touring brand going all over Europe, and just maybe, a friend of the show will be on that show. So I'm hoping we get a revival of NXT Europe. Maybe it's based in Germany.
Yeah, let's hope she does get picked up, but in the same way, I would hope that Spike will get picked up, and then maybe she could get abused by Spike on the show.
No, David, no.
No, I meant verbally.
That could be interesting, but I feel like I want to see a rebirth at NXT UK because I miss it. We've been without it for about 4 months now, and I miss this company. It was a good company. They had some bad luck with the coronavirus having when it was. They were about to go to Dublin to do their first outside England takeover, and it just fell apart because they could not generate cash. And it became a cash issue, and that's why they got rid of NXT UK.
Well, I mean, basically they'd sucked it dry. The big conglomerate had sucked it dry, and it was left over with a few. I mean, I've been chuffed to bits, even though he's let himself go a little bit. To see Trent Seven on Rampage the last 2 weeks, he's actually made me watch Rampage just to see me old mate Trent Seven on there, and I'm so glad he's been picked up. Because he'll be getting good money off Tony, and he deserves it. I just hope he manages to take Tyler with him, because the WWE don't deserve, the way they keep Jordan Devlin at the moment, or JD McDonough, or whatever his bloody stupid name is. Jordan Devlin's being held. I know he's in main event matches as such on NXT, but he should be better than that. He's just better than that, and they should be given a chance.
Okay, here's another bold prediction for you. Jordan Devlin's going to be on the WWE main roster in 2023, and he's going to have a match with Finn Balor, and it's going to be one of the matches of the year.
Oh, I mean, it would be. They've done it they did it in OTT, and it was brilliant. I don't know. I don't know whether Jordan's big enough. He's good enough. I mean, Christ alive, he's good enough. But we'll see. Hopefully, Regal turning up. They might get a voice of reason, and also shift Booker T off commentary, because I think he's awful on commentary.
I have a fondness for Booker T because he was a big part of my childhood. But the last couple of months of him and NXT on commentary, I wish I had Wade Barrett back. Wade, I know you're over SmackDown. Do you want a double paycheck? Can you come back, please?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you, as a performer, in every respect, he deserves it. He was brilliant. He was brilliant in the ring. But you look at the pre-shows and the commentary. He's not right. There's something, he's a sandwich short of a picnic. He really, really is.
Exactly. I mean, he has his moments. Now, if Rosas Perez is in the ring, he's on fire. He is locked and loaded because it's one of the people he helped train. But outside that, if it's like a New Day, I feel like he wants to go find Stevie Ray, go like, hey, Stevie, let's go teach these kids how to do it.
Yeah. But anyway, also another name we haven't mentioned on NXT that I think has been poorly, although they got gold, was Pretty Deadly. Me and you were big advocates of Pretty Deadly. I hope and I pray they get a break, because they're brilliant.
I hope that Regal coming back to NXT is going to be a good thing for Pretty Deadly, because I feel like they brought him over and they had a good start. Then they just kind of got into a bad character drift there for a second, where I feel like the people behind the scenes went, let's make Pretty Deadly just a little bit more one way, and it's not really how we saw him in NXT UK, because it was applied in NXT UK. It was hit over your head in NXT.
They were, I mean, yeah, in Progress and NXT UK, they were absolutely fantastic. A real great tag team. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they've had a shot at gold on TV, but I used to get very, very upset with the social media slugging of them by ignorant people who didn't know them, didn't know who they were and their background. And yet they call themselves wrestling fans. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what we're talking about and you think me and the big Knoxville fella have gone mad, check out YouTube, Pretty Deadly from NXT UK and Pretty Deadly from Progress Wrestling UK. You'll see what we mean. They're a great tag team.
And here's another bold prediction for you, David. I feel like Pretty Deadly is going to make either Raw or SmackDown coming up in 2023. And maybe by December 2023, they're going to be WWE champions.
I'd like that to be the case.
Okay, David, that has been our look back at 2022 in the world of professional wrestling through our Stunning 6 questions. David, hold tight as I introduce Bob from SlimWrestling.net as we hit the center stage interview. And David, this is going to be a pretty freaking amazing interview. And I'll give you a hint, David. Me and Bob agree. You know how I mess with Bob a lot of times on Mandy Rose, but in this interview, you're going to find out that me and Bob are on the same page. So enjoy this, and we'll be back on Radio Free Professional Wrestling for the next segment in this about 15 minutes.
Radio Free Pro Wrestling proudly presents Center Stage. Help David and Shawn welcome this week's guest to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very fortunate to have Bob Kapur from Slam Wrestling on the line with us now as we're going to look at the crazy week of NXT wrestling and the fact that Mandy Rose was released less than 24 hours after losing the title to Roxanne Perez this past week. Bob, first of all, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing quite well. Trying to ramp up for the holiday season, which is, as much as it slows down, there's a lot of stuff to do.
Exactly, Bob. I thought this was going to be a nice, quiet week. I can just go do my Christmas shopping and stuff. Then all of a sudden, all this blew up in our face, and we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, it was quite a shock. I saw the match where she lost the title on Tuesday, and then by Wednesday, the reports are out that she'd been released. So it was a sudden shock to everyone, I think.
Okay, so to give our fans all the knowledge they need, apparently this came from a leak of some private videos that she put up on her FanTime site, a site that you have to subscribe to. Apparently, one of the subscribers decided to post this somewhere else. Apparently, the WWE knew about this content, and they have talked to her about it. And apparently, it got to a point where she believed she could have gotten in trouble for what she was posting. So, is this crazy state where is Mandy Rose really an independent contractor able to do whatever she wants to do outside of WWE, or can the WWE actually fire for a cause here?
Well, I think that the independent contractor issue is a much broader issue. My guess is, and I've not seen the contracts, my guess is that like any actor or any someone who's a star on a TV show or a movie has a morality clause built in. They might have let it go. And they might have actually been aware of it and just sort of said, well, it's under the radar. It's a paywall site, so we're not going to really enforce anything. Someone might have forced their hand. If the rumors that there was a potential leak happening are true, then they might have said, well, we can't ignore this now because it's going to go public. So that's, one speculation. The other speculation is she just decided to push the envelope a little further. Now, I don't know if you've seen the videos in question, and I have, for the sake of research, someone actually sent me the videos. She's in a pool, she's topless in the pool, and her breasts are underwater, but she's topless. So they're not, it's not explicit like she's, flashing her breasts in front of the camera very obviously, but you can see, her bare breasts. And I think that probably goes a little bit beyond what WWE is looking for in their superstars, right? In terms of public image and in terms of, just being associated with someone who's under the WWE or NXT brand.
And especially since this is their NXT Women's Champion, a person who they have invested in 400 days as champion and have been prominently on TV for the last year and a half.
Yeah, and even longer than that if you count the WWE stuff, right? She's been a mainstay in the company since 2017, so 5 years. That she was, started with Absolution when she started with teaming up with Paige and Sonya Deville. So she's been a mainstay on TV for the past 5 years. It's only been the last couple of years that she's been in NXT.
Yeah, the last couple of years has been probably her best run, and she's literally probably the hottest free agent now since this has happened coming into 2023.
I'd say so. I'd say every company right now should be, trying to get her number or reach out to her to, to sign up, right? Whether it be AEW, Impact, NWA could, probably I think Billy Corgan should be reaching out. And in terms of the hottest free agent, I think you and I were joking. Well, it's either her or CM Punk, but certainly in terms of someone who's been in the female division, yeah, she's absolutely the hottest free agent.
I mean, she would be a welcome addition to either Impact or AEW. I feel like she could fit in either place. Now, I know you were talking about Impact might be a better fit for her style.
Sorry, yeah, no, I think so. I mean, she's got a style, and there's the other benefit of Impact for her is that there's departures, right? Chelsea Green just left. Mickie James, presumably after the pay-per-view in January, will be out as an on-screen wrestler. There's rumors of Deonna Purrazzo leaving. So I think there's a big void that she could easily fill. I think her style is better represented in Impact because it seems more of a WWE style, and which is frankly all that she knows, right? Because she came up through their developmental system. I think AEW, there's a couple things. One, I think the female roster is too big, that she just might get lost in the shuffle. Two, I don't know that her style would resonate well with that audience because she is more of you hate to say the sports entertainer versus wrestler, but her in-ring style is not as strong, I think, as some of the others. And she might just get, I'm not going to say not appreciated by the AEW fans, but I don't know that her style would be as seamless a transition for her.
Exactly. And I can see those AEW fans just going into their business for themselves and chanting some things that Tony would have a basically beef off the air.
Well, he doesn't bleep anything else off the air. I don't know what they bleep about her.
But another thing we got to think about, she's 32 years old, which I didn't know until I started researching stuff for this story. She's 32. So I got a feeling that she's been doing this site and gaining money off of the site. And there's reports that she's making more money off her fan times than her absolute WWE contract. So for her, it possibly could be more lucrative to not even wrestle.
Yeah. And, I think my understanding is she has other business interests, like non-wrestling business interests, which is, smart. I think, she's probably done some good savings from that. I'm hoping she has. And, to me, she could monetize this whole situation for even a year and just do conventions and signings. She could try to go for endorsement deals, try to get some, modeling and acting gigs. Right now, the world could be her oyster. And yes, do you want to necessarily wrestle? I don't know if she has an end date in mind or when she wants to give it up, but if she's doing well in other ventures, including the pay site, then maybe she doesn't want to go back to wrestle.
And exactly. And the question would be is the door totally closed for her in the WWE? Because, never say never. She could always eventually end back up there.
Yeah. And one would hope that cooler heads will prevail, that it might just go away and blow over, and then she could, eventually make a return. I don't know. Again, we don't have access to the contracts. Don't know how big the deal this really was and how high up at WWE. If it was a spur of the moment decision saying, hey, we've got to deal with this before it becomes, blows up. Or she might do like some others have and say, hey, I'll turn down my social media presence and I'll be a, full-time WWE person, and that's it. Again, I think she's got some options there, and she might have to weigh the costs and benefits for herself personally.
Now, I know that you are a super big Mandy Rose fan, and we kind of joking on Facebook sometimes about how big of a fan you are. How surprised were you for her dropping the title this past week?
Well, it came out of nowhere, and it was a shock. Often in wrestling, or most of the times in wrestling, you hope to see an evolved storyline, right? Or a storyline evolve into the culmination of a title match. And here I think they didn't do it, right? It just became a match. I'm not saying entirely out of the blue because, Roxanne had earned some title shots. But, with two pay-per-views coming up or two premium live events in New Year's Evil and Vengeance Day, I thought you could have actually told that story over those couple months, right? In January, New Year's Evil, have Toxic Attraction interfere and screw Roxanne. And then a decision's made, well, we have to have the next rematch versus there's a stipulation that keeps Toxic Attraction out of the picture, either a cage match or some sort of stipulation that they're banned from the building, and then you can actually have a match where it leads to an exciting conclusion and a happy ending where Roxanne wins the title. So for them to do it the way they did, obviously they had to come up with a last minute plan, and that's what they chose. But it was shocking, and I saw the match and it was like, what happened? So either your immediate thoughts are someone's injured and they're taking them off TV, and that's the way they're doing it. Or, in this case, it happened to be released for another reason.
Well, my reaction was, I was thinking, oh, they're going to send her up to the main roster in the new year. So they're getting the title off her now. And that's why I was thinking, leaving Tuesday night, until I woke up Wednesday morning going, what the hell? And then it makes sense to me. Okay. I was like, okay, that's why they did this title change. But for that 6-hour period there, on Tuesday night, I'm thinking she's going to Raw or she's going to SmackDown, and they got some plans for Mania.
Yeah, see, I would have thought if they were going to do that, then they would have her drop the title. And I'm not sure the dates, if New Year's Eve is before Royal Rumble or not, but I would have thought if she was going to drop it New Year's Eve, then she would make a surprise appearance at the Rumble, and that's the way they would bring her back into the main roster fold.
Yeah, that would have probably been the way I thought of it too, because she would literally be a top level heel on Raw or SmackDown. And if you think about it, she would probably be on SmackDown, because I can't think of another top level heel on SmackDown except for Ronda Rousey. So that would have been a possibility there. But now we'll just have to wait and see what 2023 has in store for Mandy Rose.
Yeah, and it's funny, you mentioned about, I'm such a big fan. I really started appreciating her only in NXT, right? Before, when she was on the WWE main roster, at first I just thought she was the eye candy for Absolution. And, even the Fire and Desire things with Sonya Deville and the Otis storyline I thought were a bit silly. And I never really appreciated her much at all. But when when they gave her some grounding and gave her an opportunity to shine with Toxic Attraction in NXT, and I think her in ring, I don't know if it was always good or if it was just hidden because she only had limited time, but I got really impressed with her in ring stuff. And I think she had the heel persona was great, the faction was great, and her in ring performances were really strong. That it really opened my eyes to how good she is as a performer, all around performer. So yeah, I think it's a big loss for NXT, and I think a big loss for WWE in a broader perspective.
I think you're right, Bob. I feel like the WWE is going to wake up in a couple of months and go like, we might have went just a little bit too far there, a little too fast with letting Mandy Rose go. And I don't know if they can backtrack and try to establish that bridge.
It is a puzzling decision, right? Given some of the things that other people have done, right? You've got the Usos, who are tag team champions, and one of them has been arrested with DUI charges repeatedly. You've got Riddle, who's had his share of scandal. They've took him off TV now apparently for rehab, but before that, he was still on TV and being pushed. So it seems to me like they've taken a very disproportionate reaction on Mandy Rose. Again, for what it was on the videos, it's hard to say that was so lewd content that WWE couldn't have kept overlooking it, or that anyone would have made a big stink about it.
Exactly, Bob. My other question for you is this. That news came out 24 hours after we found out a new Wall Street Journal report about Vince McMahon. So I have a feeling maybe they had this release on Tuesday, try to change the narrative and have another story going so that Vince's story could die just a little bit.
I suppose it's possible. I would, if they're trying to say that they're cleaned up as a company and that they don't want any hint of a sexual scandal, then that might have been the wrong way to do it, because now it's just, I think now you're spotlighting, hey, you got rid of this person for showing her nipples, but you're bringing back, or potentially, the former CEO is coming back, who you paid money to multiple ladies for sex scandals. So I don't know that it's necessarily accomplished that, that if that was their objective.
I was like looking at her being released, and I'm going like, this is a hypocrisy at the highest levels here, because you're thinking about bringing Vince back and this happens. Like, what the hell is going on with this company?
Well, my guess is they're not thinking about bringing Vince back, but Vince, as the majority shareholder, is flexing that he wants to come back. And unfortunately, the structure of the shares and the voting control is that in theory, he could come back at any time he wants. The only thing that's going to prevent it, I think, is if the SEC say, hey, you're not allowed to be a director or an officer of a public company because of the fraud that was perpetrated. And if him sending out that could be a big flare for the regulators to come in and say, no, you're not coming back. And if they were smart, I think that's what they would do, because they've done it in other companies where you've seen that sort of, manipulation of financial statements, and they've told the responsible party, you're not allowed to go back to a public company. And as a shareholder, as shareholders, I would say that's probably what you want to see, is that sort of governance over the company, over someone who, caused problems in that manner.
Exactly, Bob. Now, I do own stocks in the WWE, so I'll just put it out there. I own like probably 14 shares or something, not anything major, but I'm with you. I don't want to see Vince back in control of this company because he can't explain the image. The image and Vince, it's gone too far. We know too much now.
Mm-hmm. And I own a share, just full disclosure for anyone, because I do write for Slam. But I have one because I like to attend the quarterly and the annual investor calls. But I think it would be a bad signal to send to shareholders. They've proven that they can go on without him, that they can continue. They had a succession plan, whether it was thrown together just because of that or whether it was always sort of in the works. I don't know that they need him anymore. Again, he might be, as some people have suggested, still controlling the puppet strings in the background and no one knows about it. But I don't think on paper you want him to be, on the company's roster anymore, their shareholder roster, director roster.
I feel like if it gets found out that he still somehow has control of this company, it's kind of like Vince Russo working with Impact Wrestling back in the early 2013, 2014, when Spike TV literally told DC Carter, please do not have this guy employed. And somehow, some stupid way, they found out that, oh, hey, Vince Russo is still working for this company. Your TV deal, that's now void.
Yeah, there's no upside to having a Vince involved in your product.
Well, Bob, before we let you go, where can we find you? And I know you write for Slam Wrestling. That's where you should go for all your wrestling news. So hit us up for your socials.
Yeah, slamwrestling.net. That's important. They say slamwrestling.net. I'm one of the senior editors there, and I do weekly recaps of Impact and just other miscellaneous stories. We have a great team, though, behind us. Greg Oliver, Sean Powell, the two founding managers are still there, of course, and Greg is the captain of that ship editorially in terms of breaking news and such. I have a Twitter account which I very rarely use, but it's Read Bob's Tweets, and I guess I'm on the Facebook, so you can hit me up on the Facebook. I'm there, Bob Kapur, Kapur.
And Bob is very active on Tuesday nights as we watch NXT. That may change in 2023.
I'm going to still watch. I mean, I'm still a fan I watch every product. Mostly, if you read my Facebook, I'm critical of every product. I'm one of those internet nitpickers. So even the loss of Mandy is not enough to take me away.
Well, Bob, thank you for coming on to Radio Free Professional Wrestling. And I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a happy 2023.
Thanks very much for having me, and likewise to you and yours.
Do another thank you to Bob Kapur from SlamWrestling.net, the only place you could go on the internet in Canada to find the best wrestling news. David, our special guests are not done yet because we're blowing the budget here on this pre-Christmas episode, because guess who just walked in the door here? It's Joe Aguinaldo from the Sunday Night Main Event.
I'm just shut up. I'm letting you get on with it.
Joe is known for his podcast, Monday Morning Cook, and also better known for his AEW show with Dan Rabowski, which is known better as the O Fucks. Joe, Merry Christmas. How you doing?
Merry Christmas, dudes. I'm good. Actually, how you guys doing? Dave, how you doing? Let's start with you, man.
Well, I'm doing all right, Joe. I'm all the better for seeing your absolutely gorgeous features all this way across the pond. You do sterling work in the podcast of the media world. And you also look at boats in Toronto Bay, as I've gone on about many, many times. And it's great to see you and be on
it's good to see you
with you again.
It's good to see you guys. It's been a while since we've talked. So thank you for having me on. And, man, you got me following Bob Kapur. That's some big shoes to fill.
Well, Joe, you are main event Joe after all. So why I want to bring you on, Joe, is we're looking ahead to 2023. And my very first question for us, will we see Miro back in AEW? Where has the Reclaimer gone? Can we reclaim Miro, please?
I mean, based on, obviously grain of salt and rumors and innuendos and all that stuff, but based on what I've seen regarding Miro, like, this is a dude that I mean, he's doing well outside of wrestling. So he doesn't, it's almost like he doesn't need to be wrestling, with his outside interests. Now, that said, I think we will see Miro, but I think he's also being very choosy or picky about what he wants to be involved with. So I think we'll see him, but for lack of a better way to describe it, I think it has to be worth his while. And from what I've read, and again, rumors, grain of salt, all that stuff, some of the things that have been pitched to him in the in the near past haven't been what he wants to be involved with. But Miro's too talented a guy to not have on your TV. You got to have that guy on sooner or later. He's a guy that could help your division, help your promotion. I mean, Samoa Joe versus Miro. Yeah, come on. You know what I mean? Wardlow versus Miro versus, like you put him in a program with MJF. Like this is a guy that you can put pretty much anywhere. So to not have him on would be stupid. I do think we have him on, I would hope sooner rather than later in 2023.
I got to respect Miro because he knows his worth. So he's not going to do anything that's going to kind of cheapen his value. And like I've seen on his Instagram and his Twitter, he's living his best life right now. So I'm hoping, like you said, that we'll see him come into 2023. And if we don't get a Samoa Joe versus Miro match while they're both in the same promotion, it's going to be criminal.
I 100% agree. I think you could say that about Miro versus a bunch of people. Again, that's a guy that's too talented to be sitting on the bench.
Well, I think AEW have dropped the ball with him from day one. The pairing, as much as I like Kip Sabian, and I've gone on about this on the show, he's not, he comes not far from me, and he was a top British guy. The pairing on his arrival was very, very strange. The video games thing was very, very strange. Then it looked like they were getting it right with him, and he was being presented as he should be, as a monster, be it face or heel. They could do either. And obviously, I think there was some disillusionment there. There was some disenchantment. Then injury. He could bring Lana in and be totally rehabbed. But I think AEW are on last chance saloon with him. I tell you what, it'd be a monster in New Japan.
Ooh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, like, okay, so you can have Jeff Cobb versus Miro. You can have Okada versus Miro. There's a lot of people in New Japan. I can just think of it like, hey, this would be a fun match.
Yeah, like, again, Miro's one of those guys that could help anywhere. I mean, heck, if he even went back to WWE, I think that would be, again, I'm not saying he will. I'm just like, I think with the new regime there, I think he would be used, a bit more to his potential than he's being used now.
Joe, next question for us. Thunder Rosa back to AEW or Charlotte Flair to the WWE? Who do we see first in 2023?
I think we see Charlotte Flair first, mainly because the Royal Rumble's coming up. She's been off for a while now. I don't think she's injured, so the Royal Rumble would be a good place for Charlotte to come back. And of course, you've also got the start to WrestleMania season, and I can't see Charlotte missing a WrestleMania.
Exactly, Joe. I don't see Charlotte Flair missing a WrestleMania because it's a lucrative season, and it's all about star power. They're heading to LA. They're going to get all hands on deck.
Yep.
Now, Thunder Rosa, I'm hoping the bridge isn't burned between her and AEW. I don't think it is. So I'm hoping she comes back in 2023 because I'd really like to see her versus Saraya and her versus Jamie Hager and have her run after that title with Hager having the title.
I mean, again, I don't know a ton about what's going on with the Thunder Rosa stuff, and I try to stay out of the rumor mill, but I mean, she's definitely injured, and last reports I've read from the Observer was that she may not be back till February anyways. But sort of to your point, let's say there is some friction there, right? I think one of the things now that AEW needs to do, or Tony Khan needs to be able to do, is you got to be able to separate the personal stuff from the business. And you mentioned a couple matches there, Dave, with like Saraya and Tony Storm, Sheeta. Like there's a bunch of matches, i.e. business, that AEW could do with Thunder Rosa. And is Tony Khan or are AEW mature enough to sort of get around those personal issues, if there are personal issues to begin with, right? I mean, you're always going to have personal issues in pro wrestling. It's an ego-driven sport. So I personally would like to think that Thunder Rosa is going to come back and that they will do business, because they can do good business with her.
Exactly, Joe. It leads me into my next question. What do you see for the women's division in AEW in 2023? We've seen Saraya come into the company. They have Jamie Hayter now as the champion. Jamie Hayter basically got over organically. What's the future for AEW women's division? Because it kind of has been that one weak point of the company, and it's a part of the company I want to see grow.
Yeah, I'm going to get us on a soapbox here. I have been a big fan of that women's division, and over the last 3 years, they've really grown. I mean, you've got a superstar in Britt Baker. You've got now a superstar with Saraya. You've got some solid women like Toni Storm, like Hikaru Shida, like Nyla Rose. You've got a division that's got kind of your upper echelon, your mid card, and your lower card. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of these two, but Ty Conti and Anna Jay, they draw. Like, they're very popular. So I would like to see them get past their segment, match and a half type of deal in AEW, because I think, they've quietly built up a pretty good women's division. Like, is it WWE? No, I'm not going to put it up there yet, but they've got some guns now. They've got some bullets that I think they could do some real damage if they allow the women more time, whether it's on, Dynamite, whether it's on Rampage. I know they've got limited TV time, but man, they've got some talent there. And then, you've still got in the wings, you've still got Chris Statlander, you've got Layla Hirsch, Serena Deeb. Where the hell has she been for the last little while? She's awesome. Athena, there's another person who, I think could help your women's division out. So they've got the talent. And it just comes down to, will they get the TV time? And that's really up to Tony Khan. But I guess my issue with that is that, when AEW first started, he was like, our women's division is going to be a focal point of the show, and it really hasn't been. And I'd really like to see it become a bit more of a focus in 2023.
I agree with you, Joe, because he made that promise, like, hey, we're going to focus on the women's division. And we're 3 years in, we're still waiting for more women presentation on AEW. And hopefully 2023 is the year where it becomes more, because I feel like they have earned it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, if you think about it too, like, you remember the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match from Grand Slam, I think it was like a year or two ago, where they had that, that sort of the, what do you call it? Like the like it was like match. The lights. Thank you. The lights out match. I mean, that was my match of the year, or one of my match of the year candidates for that year. Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm had a kick-ass match at the last pay-per-view for the title. So, again, they've got the talent. They just need the time, and they need the exposure. And I think, if Tony Khan would and again, I'm not saying they have to have an all-women show. But why not highlight, hey, this Dynamite, is going to be half and half. We're going to get the women's division in. We're going to build some stories around them, because that's the other problem that they have, is that you've got your one main feud, but you can, with the talent they have, you can have a couple of mid-card type feuds, right? And, again, I haven't even mentioned like Jade Cargill, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but she is definitely got a charisma around her. And again, someone that you can showcase, you know what I mean? So again, not to belabor the point, but I would like to think that they are going to put a bit more of a focus on that division. I think it's time. I think they're at a good point in their development that they can put some of these women on television, and it will do well.
Joe, would you want to add Mandy Rose to this equation? Because she's possibly she is a free agent now, and maybe 30 days or 90 days from now, she'll be totally a free agent. Would AEW be a landing spot for her?
Mandy Rose? Sure, why not? You know what? At this point, like, I know that one of the complaints is that, they signed too many stars, but I think you would be you would have to look at Mandy Rose, like especially the work that she did in NXT. I mean, she held that title for what was it, like 400 days. She made Toxic Attraction a thing. She put over Roxanne on the last pay-per-view. Like, she's doing some of the best work that she's done in a while, or at least we're seeing it finally. And again, that's another potential great addition to AEW.
Joe, I want to see Britt Baker versus Mandy Rose because the crowd wants to cheer Britt Baker, and you need a heel for Britt to work with. Mandy Rose is the perfect person for this job.
Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing. I think that Britt has built herself up so well with the AEW, like the sort of that core fan base, that even if Britt acts like a heel, and we're already seeing it now anyways, but if Britt acts like a heel and someone comes in, I think the default is that they're going to cheer for Britt because she's homegrown. She's very good. She's very entertaining. And she's, quote unquote, she's one of us, right? So I would love to see that happen. I mean, you kind of sort of saw it with Saraya when Saraya came in. Like, she was supposed to be the big baby face, and to be honest with you, like, I was like, I think Britt's gonna be the face in that feud. Thankfully, both of them got cheers, and that was good. But again, Britt's a homegrown talent. I think you put anyone up against Britt from the outside, so to speak, and she's going to be the default babyface in that feud, at least to the AEW crowd anyways.
Okay, Joe, let's go over to WWE for a second. Roman Reigns has been on this monster run. Is 2023 the year we see the downfall of the Bloodline?
I think so. I mean, like, the Bloodline does have... I think they do have some left in the tank, but I think the other side of that coin is that, you probably need to start shaking that up. Now, I'll admit I'm a little biased because I've never really been the biggest fan of the Usos, for example. In fact, to me, the most entertaining thing about the Bloodline is really Sami Zayn. So I do think, though, that if you're going to pull the trigger on breaking up the Bloodline, or at least having them lose the titles, I think this is the year to do it. They've been on top for a while. You've got some good talent in Cody Rhodes. You've got Kevin Owens' resurgence. You've got Seth Rollins is always there. Bobby Lashley. Like, there's Drew McIntyre is always around. There's a lot of guys out there that I think could carry that ball. So when it happens, though, I'm going to say around WrestleMania. That just makes the most sense. Depending on what the booking looks like. But yeah, I think eventually we're going to see, the downfall. I don't even want to say the downfall, but I think they're going to move beyond this Bloodline storyline and move into something else.
I'm with you, Joe, because I feel like the Bloodline is so good, but the crowd eventually is going to turn on them and going like, we've seen this so many times. It'll have that John Cena effect. It's like when John Cena first became a heel, everybody's like, ooh, cool, John Cena's a heel. And people started cheering for him because they saw how talented he was. 3-4 years later, same group of people started booing the heck out of John Cena because they didn't want to see him anymore. And I don't want to see that about the Bloodline.
See, here's what I think, too. Like, Vince was of the mind of, like, we'll dictate, what we want. And I think Triple H is a bit more... he listens a bit more to the fans. Now, again, I'm not saying that they have to do everything that the fans do. I'm not at all suggesting that. But I think, it'll be a little different where the WWE won't try to force something down your throat. And I think with the Bloodline, they're getting to that point where it's like, at least in my opinion, that, now it's being forced down your throat. And once we get to that point, I think that's where the fans turn on it. And I hope that, Triple H or the creative team, kind of see that, they feel that, and they swerve in a different direction before, they hit that point of, no return, so to speak.
Exactly, Joe. I do feel like 2023 is the right time for Roman Reigns to get rid of the title, because I feel like he's gotten bigger than the WWE title. He really doesn't need it.
Well, it's not just that, though, but you also want to see it defended on a bit more of a regular basis. I mean, like, Roman Reigns is good, don't get me wrong, but, like, again, he doesn't wrestle a ton. And now, again, I'm not saying he has to defend it every week on TV and stuff, but I think, you do want your titles out there to help, sort of like you want your titles out there, and you want to see it defended a little bit more than, whatever it is, 6 times a year, right? So I would hope that, they do pull the trigger this year.
Okay, Joe, one final question to wrap up this Studying 6 experience for you. Where has Sheeta gone? What do you see for Sheeta in 2023? Because she was the foundation of AEW's women's division. I know you love some Sheeta, so I'll let you have your floor.
I honestly, I don't think. I think they're going to come back to Sheeta maybe a little later, but I think right now you have to focus on the Sarayas. You have to focus on the Tony Storms, the Athenas, the Jade Cargills. You got to get them up to that level as well. Okay, so Britt Baker, let's use her as an example. Okay, Britt Baker is the star of that division. She doesn't need the belt, right? But and I'm not going to say Sheeta's at that level, but she's kind of like one beneath that level as one of the foundations of AEW. So she's always going to have some credibility with that fan base. And I think what they'll do is they'll probably use Sheeta to help build some of that talent, or get some of that talent into that, up to that level. But I think eventually Sheeta will, at least I hope that Sheeta will get another run with that belt, because she was awesome as the champ. I loved her. But again, I'm very biased towards her.
Well, Sheeta reminds me, I'm going to use this as an example here. I feel like she's kind of like Mr. Perfect now. She doesn't need a title because she's so good in the ring, and people just respect her work in the ring. You can literally put her in there with anybody, and she can pull out a good match.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Okay, Joe. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of me, David, and Czech. Ladies and gentlemen, go over to Sunday Night Main Event Patreon page. For $5 a month, you get access to all their amazing shows, and you'll be able to listen to Joe at least twice a week, sometimes more, because he's the hardest working man in podcast entertainment. Joe,
I don't know about that, but thanks.
Joe, on behalf of us here at Radio Free Professional Wrestling, we want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a happy 2023. Stay stunning.
Thanks, man, and Merry Christmas to you guys as well.
Before we go this week on Radio Free Professional Wrestling, on behalf of Deputy Smart Mark and Jake from the Windy City, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Have a safe travel to where you're going. And please join us Christmas Day after you open your presents and have your Christmas meal, because we are giving you the gift of the 2022 Western Awards, the best and the worst in the year of 2022. As always, follow us on Radio Free PW on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Until we see you on Christmas Day, have a stunning rest of your week.
This is Sergeant Arms of Christina on behalf of the guys. Thanks for listening to today's show. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and a review. Until next time, the liberation continues.